This lecture is part of my Godot beginners course. If you want to see the full course, check the link in the description.
Right now the main menu looks a little bit bland. It's black and nothing much is really going on. In this lecture we're gonna try and add some particle effects in order to make this a little bit more alive. So in the end we want it to look like this. We have 2D particles being emitted from the center, and it gives the illusion that we're moving through space and we're passing stars and stars are coming at us. Let's get started. We're going to start by adding a new node. This is going to be a particle emitter, and it's called Particles 2D. Let's create this, and it's currently here on the top left. Doesn't do much just yet, so let's take a look at the inspector. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to go inside the process material and create a new particles material. And this will basically make the particle emitter start. As you can see right now, it's emitting particles in a single line, and the particles actually have gravity, and that's why they're going down. Here we can change the amount of the particles being emitted. So for example, if I set this to be 50, as you can see, 50 particles are being emitted. And inside of this time tab here, I can set the lifetime of these particles. So currently it's set to 1, and that's why they die off at this point, because it takes them exactly 1 second to get to here, and once they do, they are deleted. For example, if I set this to be 3, you can see that their lifetime is much longer. So let's take this inside the game scene here, and let's actually place it to the center, which should be 280 by 480, I think. That looks about right. So if I run the game now, you can see that particles are being emitted when the game starts. But actually, I want the particles to be pre-processed before the game starts. So I don't want the particles to start emitting when the game starts. I want them to be in a state where they've been being emitted for a while. So I can do that using this pre-process option here. Particle system starts as if it had already run for this many seconds. So we're going to set this to be 3. Actually, let's set it to 5. And now if I run the game, the particles looks like as if they were being emitted for 5 seconds before the game started. Great. Now we want to change the way these particles are being emitted. And to do that, I'm going to go inside this particles material here. Click on this, and this will open up a variety of different options. We can use all of these options to basically change the way these particles are being emitted. The first thing I want to do is I want to change the scale of these, because they look a little bit too small. So go inside the scale tab here and set it to 3. Now it looks much better, but I don't want all of them to be the same size. So that's why I'm going to set the random to be 0.5. And that's going to make sure that I have some variety for my particles. Great, that's going to be all for scale. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disable the gravity, because I don't want my particles to go down. We're technically in space, and we're not on a planet, so gravity doesn't really make sense here. So let's set this to be 0. And if I do that, you can see that all the particles are being emitted in the same position, and they're dying off there as well, because they don't have any velocity. So let's fix that, and let's go to the initial velocity tab here, and let's set their velocity to be -200. And that's going to make them go leftwards because it's negative, and they're also being sent off to different trajectories, and that's because their direction has a spread of 45. So if I set this spread to be 0, they will be emitted in a straight line. So the more this spread is increased, the more they spread, basically, as the name suggests. So we want this to be 180 because we want them to be spreaded to all directions. This is starting to look good, and it's starting to look like what we had in the introduction. So let's run this real quick and see what it looks like. Okay, great. Now we should make it so that when the particles are first emitted, they're not 100% opaque, so they start off as transparent, so that it looks better. I'm gonna go inside the color tab here. I'm gonna use a color ramp. This is going to be a gradient. Let's click on it. Let's create a new gradient here. And if you click on this first button here, this sets the initial color of the particle. We still want it to be white, but we want the alpha value to be 0. Actually, maybe a little bit more than 0, like 60. Let's see what this looks like. So great, they start off as transparent, but let's actually make them completely transparent at the beginning. And let's take this second button and let's bring it a little bit closer so that they regain their color a little bit faster. More. Okay, let's run the game. Now it looks much better. Maybe we can even take this a little bit away. Great. That's going to be it for this effect. I think it's mostly done. Maybe we can increase the amount of particles just a little bit, but I think it looks good. So thank you for watching, and let's get to the next one.